Welcome to Circle of Hearts Radio. Journey with Grandmother Allayah as she enters her magical world of relics, sacred sites, and ancient crystal skulls. Meet with exciting trailblazer authors and individuals shifting the consciousness of humanity. Send her your questions to be answered on air on her monthly segment, Ask the Oracle. And now your host, Grandmother Allayah, in the sanctuary on the airwaves on OMTimes Radio.
Welcome to Circle of Hearts Radio. I am Allayah, your host for this hour. Welcome to my sanctuary. Now today we have a very interesting soul. I call him a regular trailblazer, and I don't even know where he gets time to do what he does, but we're going to be speaking with Joe Ayapana. He knows I was trying to get his last name right. A modern-day mystic and seeker. About his spiritual journey, journaled in the book of Positive Light, and how these messages can facilitate the reader's own remembrances of the heart. Now listen to his bio. He's such a busy man. I mean, he's a veteran of the United States Air Force. He's been practicing within specialized nursing field of behavioral health as a registered nurse for nearly 12 years within the Cleveland metropolitan area. His inspirational work through the application and instruction of dialectical, is that it, Joel?
You got it.
Therapy. Hey, I'm doing
DBT,
good.
right? You got it.
You're going to have to tell me what that is, too. Positive psychology, quantum mechanics, heart-centered research-based science toward populations among vast and widening socioeconomic scope. My God. He deals with the mentally ill, homeless, victims of substance abuse, anxiety disorder, depression, has earned him several awards and recognitions within the field of nursing. Additionally, throughout all his spiritual travels, he's received initiations and all of his and blessings from a number of prominent spiritual teachers. He is additionally a motivational speaker, a Reiki practitioner, a Kundalini yoga expert, a light worker, a numerologist, a philosopher, an alchemist, a seasoned traveler, a marathon. I'm getting tired.
I know, right?
So,
yeah, me too.
And a radio. He's getting his voice on his own radio station. And, you know, he's really out there. Okay. And you're just a normal guy, right, Joe?
In actuality, I'm just a normal guy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Nothing too special.
Well, I don't know. Just do what you do. I'm like, okay. Even doing the behavioral with the nursing. I mean, you could write a book on that, you know, and soul experiences. But right today, we're going to talk about your book of Positive Light. Now, when in your very busy life did you get the light bulb in your head? I'm going to write a book.
That was really a huge quantum leap for me when I decided to write that book. And I couldn't say that I did it by myself. I was prompted by, in actuality, a Facebook friend. Her name is Sil Martin from Spain, mm-hmm. and at the time, and still till this day, I haven't really spoken to her, but she was a Facebook friend, and at the time when I was going through a rough time, I would have to say between the end of 2008 to the beginning of 2009 was when I was going through a divorce with my first wife, and at that time I was putting out just little messages for myself from the little poetry that I did, and I would post that on my Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And when you know, I didn't even know this at the time. I would just say yes to every friend request on Facebook, and there was an individual. Her name was Sil R. Martin, and she is actually the executive director for her online magazine internationally. At the time, it was called the Wonderlands magazine, and she was sending me via email and via message through Facebook all of these wonderful tools to writing a book. And I questioned her and told her I'm not an author. I'm just putting this stuff out there. And for the most part, she was just insisting that I was to write this book. And I really haven't thought about that, the beginnings of writing the book until now, from you just asking this question. But it's just bringing all this memory. Oh, yeah. Yes, very important. It's part of the story. It's part of the journey. And so this was before even going to Sedona, when I was prompted by Spirit to journey down there in pilgrimage. That was my first sacred site that I went to. Was on the Cathedral Rock when I prayed in meditation down there. And so she was initially the spark that had initiated this whole journey of writing the book. And when I completed it, she interviewed me on her online magazine. And it was just so very synchronistic. And it was just a wonderful experience to being interviewed. So that's how it all began for me.
Because it's really interesting from my point of view is, I mean, a lot, I read your timeline and, I've read your book and everything. And Syniquity, there's a lot of soul contracts going on in your life. It's sort of like this pre-planning you did before, you incarnate and say, oh, some certain part of my life, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and I'm going to be guided. But it seems like your guidance is so direct that it's almost like your higher self saying, nope, we planned this and this is what you're going to do.
Right. Yeah. And this was never the case prior to 2009. I was pretty lost for the most part. Didn't really know what was happening. Didn't know too much about my direction. But then from 2009 and until this point and beyond, I've just been prompted many different times from the little synchronicities that would just pop up every so often. And before, I'm sure that I was prompted many times on over, but just didn't pick up the message, or I didn't pick up the breadcrumbs. But I've been doing so ever since then, since 2009, picking up one breadcrumb after the next. And it's led me from one destination, from one eye-opening moment to another awakening moment. And it's just been a fun ride. It's led me to this place where I've never been before. And it's just been a huge mystery unfolding every day. And it's led me to completing many different pages or chapters in my life. And it's just been a wonderful ride. I'm just happy to be here and experiencing the awakening that's going on globally.
Well, what's nice is in a way that you, what I was telling you in your book, it's a very personal journal. And after you read it, I've used it, as I told you, as sort of like a reference. Sometimes I'll have something on my mind. I have the book on my office, I'll flip through it. And I'll come to a page and I'll go, oh, that answers my question. Or I'll answer part of something. And we were discussing this. I said, do other people find this in this book? Because I said, when you look at the book, you're thinking, all right, you're going to go in one direction. And they go, no, this is a deeply personal journey, spiritual journey of a person awakening. But then in watching you come to your, your own awareness, you hope bring us along. It's like people that are attracted to that are attracted to your book are almost like part of what they would per se, the term nowadays is your soul tribe.
Exactly.
See, you didn't know this, did you?
Well, I didn't know this at the beginning of writing this book, but I started to realize this. This was coming to my awareness, I would have to say last year, even more so when I had met Tina Saki from Arizona. she's from Phoenix. She makes a constant pilgrimage trips out to Sedona, Arizona, and other sacred sites throughout the world. But she had prompted me when I met her for the very first time, and it was funny when just our interaction. We did a book swap. I had her book, and then she took mine, and automatically, and well, she's an intuitive for the most part. She told me that this book has a serpent mound wisdom, and I told her just flip over the front cover, and automatically the third edition of the book started off with a little excerpt from my own thoughts stating how it all began. And it was the Great Serpent Mound of Adams County, Ohio, when I had the three dreams, when Spirit had told me to go to this site in southern Ohio. And she was like, okay, I knew it. And it reminds me of another individual, Douglas Ross Hamilton, who when we used to, many years back, converse, many days on over when I befriended him. And I told her, well, guess who endorsed the book in the back of the book? And there was Douglas Ross Hamilton, with his little excerpt of his interpretation of my book. And it's just been very synchronistic from that very point on. And she told me, you have to come back to this ancient site and ask for the permission for the serpent power, the serpent wisdom power to being used. And I did that just recently for the summer solstice. I did exactly just that many months later. And the message that I got from the serpent mound was just extraordinary. It led me to the very root of my journey, my purpose within this life, and what I have to complete. And ever since then, I just been armed with the wisdom and the protection and the glory and grace of the archangels and God to performing exactly that, the mission of awakening the hearts throughout mankind, and allowing the Lemurian consciousness to engulfing our awareness all across the board. So that's the reason for our interview for the most part.
Yeah, no, it is. We have a lot to talk about.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the Internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
Well, we're back with Joel, and I think we're going to get into serpent wisdom and serpent energy, because actually I'm very drawn to serpent energy, and even that I was telling Joe, I'm going to be down in Serpent Mound in the March equinox thing. So I haven't been there.
Wonderful. Right. Oh, never.
No, I have.
Oh,
I
you
haven't
have to
been
come.
there. Oh yeah, I talked to Terry, and it's happening. I'm listed, so hopefully you'll be there.
I will now.
When you're talking about serpent energy, serpent energy always is represented to me of the Kundalini experience. The experience of awakening to awareness.
Exactly.
Now, in your book, it goes, what's the intention of your book? The ancient sacred wisdom plays a huge factor within the very root of your message. And you mentioned the mystery schools. Again, here's the serpent energy through all different cultures. I know you going to Peru. You have an aspect of your name, which is Peruvian. We were talking about. You don't have to go into that, but
right.
That seems to be part of your roots, and Peru and the serpent energies, and
Right. And again, at the beginning of the journey of even manifesting this book into my awareness, I didn't even realize the true meaning of what I was doing, let alone why I was even called by the Serpent Mound to come there. And just to let you know, from the people that go there, they experience the prevalence and significance of the number 3. I remember when me and my wife were over there, and we were vending at the summer solstice last year. I woke up the next morning, on Sunday morning, and there were just 3 shirts that were sitting there, all equidistant apart, and I wondered about that. And then, and I thought that was just a coincidence, of course.
Right.
But then many other events led me to the number 3, like 3 people would be at a particular event, or there was someone who said, "Oh, I experienced the number 3 as well." So I did research on that as well, numerically and historically through numerology, and the number 3 is highly significant of serpent wisdom, and also of Lemuria. Again, the topic of discussion, and so.
Yeah, I was going to say, go into that, because even my own birthday, I'm March, number 3. 3 has a lot of significance in my life, so I'm interested, please. What's the new?
Oh, yes, and plus you're going to be going to the spring equinox, which is also in March next year. So that's a huge, significant, synchronistic thing that's happening. So the number 3 in itself pertains to not only just to the ascended masters. When I say ascended masters, people don't really know what that is, except for the ones who are in the know. And that usually it makes reference to the Christed ones, such as Yeshua or Lord Sananda or Saint Isa, or what people predominantly know throughout the world as Jesus, Buddha, and so forth, and Zoroaster, and all of the individuals who have had a significant level of Christ consciousness from within the heart. And from people who do numerology, and even the divine triangle that I had discovered or rediscovered just recently in 2013, along with my wife when we went to Chichen Itza during our honeymoon. I started to realize the significance of Pythagoras and the mystery schools. And again, I didn't know what the mystery schools was all about. I've heard of it before from people who were in the know or are in the know. And these mystery schools, they date back to Greece, ancient Greece and ancient Egypt. But originally they predated even before that, which is Lemuria. And this existence of Lemuria, for anyone who do not know, it has existed between 70,000 years to, I say, 14 to 20,000 years ago, when it actually sunk. And it's a lost continent in the Pacific. And the people that inhabited that existence were of a higher vibration, higher frequency that lived and shifted between the third dimension of things to the fifth. And they were able to do that on their own whim. And how prevalent the number 3 is, it's just a vibration, that exudes from that level of existence. And the 3, is for the most part, it pertains to the intellectual or artistic or creative endeavors, the beauty of things, luxury and pleasure, and for which Lemuria represented for the most part, consciousness of law, the authority of the mother, and the divine sacred feminine. And for those of you who know about Atlantis, for the most part, Atlantis carried the male aspect of being, of humanity. And on the other hand, Lemuria, which existed at the same time, hand in hand, is the feminine or female aspect of things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so through the many things that happened between both of those civilizations, which were, again, of higher vibration, that they had definitely many altercations and many aspects of the name, and that's what kind of led to the destruction of both of those continents. Specifically with Lemuria, it was a continent that existed in the Pacific, Atlantis, over there in the Atlantic. But once it had sunk, for the most part, many of the refugees, but the priests and priestesses, they fled, and they knew about this new cycle of things where things would change, and for which Lemuria in the third dimension of things would cease. And so many of the priesthoods, and I would have to say many believe that there are 4, but in my opinion, there might have been 5 or even 6 for that matter that had fled as refugees to many parts of the world. The first being the dragons that fled out to Eastern Asia. And then you have the Amarus, in which Aramoru was one of the originators of the priest that fled out to South America, and where he had integrated with the Inca and the Peruvians and the shamans within that region. And that's where my name is derived from, for the most part, Ayapana or Ayapanya, and that region. And the third, which is the traditional Maya, the Quetzalcoatl, or the plumed serpent. And then you have the fourth, which is from India, or to India, which the refugees fled to, or the Nakal, or the Naga Maya.
Or
and then the fifth.
Yeah, I was going to say sometimes the Nagas, if you wanted to.
The Naga, right?
Yeah, and they were the snake, which is part of the serpent.
The serpent. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that relates to Lemuria is that is the one key aspects or indicators that something is from Lemuria, or the origins of man, is that of the serpent. Yeah. And the fifth brotherhood was actually the snake clans that originated from California. Mm-hmm. The Hopi and the Zuni tribes.
Right.
And I mean, that's another show in itself that we could talk all day. And serpent wisdom is just a wonderful thing, and it predates man. Well, it's the origins of man. It's the Garden of Eden. That's where the feminine and male aspects of Adam and Eve had originated from, and for which I was born a Catholic myself, and a Christian, and still I am a Christian, but many people have questioned, my intentions as far as my beliefs and my spirituality. But I keep on telling them it's none farther from yours. You just do not know the whole truth.
I mean, people still really they question you. I mean, no, I'm always surprised, because I don't know whether people are in fear of me. They don't question me.
Right.
I don't know whether they think I'm going to zap them with something, but
right.
I've never asked, because I was brought up Greek Orthodox Catholic, Byzantine Rite. I mean, as ritual as you can get. And No one's ever said anything. So that's why I was just surprised that even with today's awareness, people question you.
They question me by their eyes, and they question whether this is anything other than the messages and quotations and the parcels of information that is received from Scripture, from the holy books, from the Torah, from the Quran, from the Holy Bible. And I tell them it is entirely from that. And again, I am a spiritualist, but not so much a religion type of person, but more or less an originalist, where I try to integrate the beliefs of now to the openings of a much higher wisdom that links to the original root form of where spirituality is derived. And all religions throughout the globe and this dimension of things is derived from exactly that, from the serpent wisdom derived from Lemuria. And serpent wisdom back in the day, in ancient times, many, many thousands of years ago, and I'm not talking about 6,000, I'm talking about maybe 60 to 70,000 years ago, that serpent wisdom, or the serpent, the symbolic representation of the serpent, was a healing type of symbolism, resurrection, rejuvenation. And just those words in itself are highly indicative of Yeshua, of Jesus Christ. And Jesus, according to the agnostics, was referred to as the serpent on the cross. And that cross that they often refer to was the Tau. The Tau is another symbol that roots, again, to Lemuria. And the agnostics, again, I guess that's the reason for this conversation, is to unleash the etymology of things. Agnostics, for the most part, were some of the more original people that were the testimonials to serpent wisdom.
All right, well, we're going to continue on that train of thought when we come back, Joel.
Yes, thank you.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business. And share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Well, back with you all, and I think that it's important to, hear people like you, discuss these subjects, because I think many of our focuses, we're trying to get to have the listeners open their mind and to forget labels, to think outside of the box, because a lot of people, when they hear serpent, they think the negative images. But when you're describing, all right, here you go with Lemuria, here you had the priestesses, and, with the Chinese, you have the lung, the dragons, the dragon energies was very based there. And right. all these and people don't realize, I did a show on dragons, people don't realize how positive serpent energy is. I mean, even look at the medical system, the Caucasians.
Exactly. Right,
I mean, you have the serpent around there. It's the balance of, all right, like you say, you have the taw with the cross, and you have the serpent winding up. And, here you have the balance. It's the clearing of energies. Serpents, dragons, all in that category. We talk about earth guardianship. You have the dragon pulse lines the Chinese talk about, which are the ley lines, over the grids, everything. And people during earthwork, and they don't equate it to the serpent energy.
Exactly.
So this is why this is so important, that you bring all these things out, that people are going to go, oh, all right, you have a medical sign, you have ley lines, and go, oh, I didn't know that, So this is important to put out there. Serpents aren't fire, hell raising, you're not going to go to hell and have, serpents, dragons burning you or anything. This is a wrong perception. They consider it evil, whereas they're totally the opposite, the wisdom keepers.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's very significant for this conversation, and very prevalent for the times that we live in. I always make reference to the etymology of things, especially and how it relates to pop culture and even our language. There are many people that go on your show, and even yourself, you are a philosopher. I'm a philosopher, per se, for the most part. Many people who I converse with are philosophers. And when you think about the etymology of even philosophy, okay, when you break it down, and not a lot of people do this, only the people who are in the know, because they love to look at the root forms of things, the origination of things. And so when we break down the word philosophy, for the most part, philo means the love of, and Sophia is the light of the serpent. So you put those two together, and what you have is the love of the light of the serpent. And serpent is wisdom. It is hidden knowledge. It's of the occult, to where the people who are seekers, when they seek and surpass the fear, which is an illusion of things, and you start to see that fear was is a program that was created as a guardian that guards hidden wisdom and knowledge. And once you are to solve that riddle and walk through the door, despite the fear that stands right beside that open door, you start to see this hidden knowledge and wisdom that is right there before your very own eyes, once you start to decode the riddle. And so the many things that we talk about every day, from the Kundalini, K, the hard K sound, right, is pertinent and highly interconnected with serpent. Anything of a K sound, Christ, okay, according to the agnostics, once more, they refer to as Christ as the serpent. And America. In the beginning, I thought that America, for the most part, was a word that was a derivative of the Italian traveler, trailblazer, Amerigo Vespucci. But for the most part, it relates even further back to the origins of, again, the brotherhood of Lemuria, the refugees and the priesthoods that derive from there. America is really termed Amaruca. Amaru was the priest of Lemuria that settled over in South America, especially during the Inca times. And you break it down even further. Amaru is referred to many times on over to the ancients as the plumed serpent. It's a derivative of Quetzalcoatl within the Yucatan. And America is really the land of the plumed serpent. And not a lot of people know that. And that relates to the snake clans that have the originators from the Hopi clans and the Zuni tribes and even the Lenape that migrated from the west. Right?
Even to throw a little aside into this, I've always been deeply interested in ancient Chinese. I must have traveled to China instead of taking, a left turn over the land bridge. I went to China or something. But
absolutely,
I have a deep interest in ancient Chinese history and those ancient Chinese and ancient emperors. They said they descended from the dragons. Okay.
Yes.
Then you have the Chinese. If you talk to the Chinese, they'll tell you they discovered America. And there really is evidence by different researchers. There's a particular dynasty, the Shang dynasty, that had a great, this is a prehistoric time, BC timeline, that had the knowledge to travel the seas. And there is evidence of them in the Olmec cultures. So it's not that far-fetched.
Absolutely. Right.
So I had to throw that in.
and yes, the Long or the Dragon Brotherhood definitely has a huge part in the Lemurian originations of things. And a symbol that can be observed throughout the world, and it shows you the link to the origins of man to the Garden of Eden that they make reference to when we talk about Lemuria is the flower of life. The flower of life can be seen everywhere throughout the planet, South America to China, especially making reference to China per se. Mm-hmm. The food dogs that are guarding the Forbidden City, underneath their paw, people think it's just a globe of something, but in actuality, it's a fourth dimensional structure of the flower of life. And even in Tibet, not a lot of people know of the White Pyramid that is in Tibet within the heavily wood-populated regions within that area and within the Himalayas. There's a white pyramid, and there's no inscriptions or hieroglyphs of any type of nature except on the very ceiling of this white pyramid, and it's the flower of life. And then you go even further to the Middle East, especially in Iraq, Egypt for the most part. The flower of life is prevalent over there. And again, South America, Russia, and the list goes on. And these are destinations of cultures that are, from what we see, is very different from each other. But in actuality, we were as one at one point. Again, which shows you our link and interconnection with Lemuria. We were as one, originating from that place of the Garden of Eden where the origination of man had started. And again, just referring back to the Serpent Mound, I even questioned that just recently when I was there for the summer solstice, and I went through many ceremonies, many personal initiations, and we can talk about that after the show. Very, very deep and truth-revealing wisdom that I acquired through the serpent. And I realized that, so I asked the question. Well, okay, is the Great Serpent Mound interrelated with Lemuria at all? And when I asked that question, all of a sudden, all of these little small messages, these synchronicities started to pop up. And that was actually the answers that I needed. And yes, for your show, there is a huge relationship with the Great Serpent Mound of Adams County, Ohio, with that of Lemuria. Again, the number 3. Again, with the indications, archaeological evidence of giants that were found there. And when Lemuria is often made mention because of the higher vibration and frequency that is prevalent over there, people have reached heights of 15 to 20, sometimes 30 feet in height that were from there. And people think that's allegoric in nature, but what people don't know in America and even throughout the rest of the world in many different parts is that giants existed for the most part. It's been reported, especially between the years of 1880s to the 1940s, of these archaeological evidence and findings from farmers to just regular folk finding a piece of bone just sticking out the ground, right. And especially within the mounds that have been created throughout that region, in Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Ohio, especially in the southern Ohio region. We're not talking about just maybe about 50, skeletal remains. We're not talking about hundreds. We're talking about in the thousands of these findings. It is not known in the popular media because for some reason, who knows, does not want this information revealed. But every single time that an archaeological finding or dig would happen and they would find these huge skeletal remains, they would send it out to the Smithsonian. And for some reason, right.
I've heard,
they disappear.
I
yes.
really heard that. I've heard that from a few people, a few researchers. They've said, and I respect these people that I've heard of from. They go, something goes to Smithsonian, and then it disappears.
Absolutely.
Never more. Oh, we'll have to continue that.
Yes.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Joel, we're just a quick aside because we're already into the end of the show here. You're gonna have to come back. We got too much. We only touched some
I would
things.
love to. Yes,
the thing, there used to be a TV program, The Library. where, they had this, thing, you go through these stores and all these artifacts would be hidden. I wonder if that was based on the Smithsonian, because I've heard of too many things about this.
I bet you it was, or it's intonating to that.
So all I know is with all the artifacts I have here, if I disappear, please check out the Smithsonian for me. I'll probably, they stuck me in a corner someplace. But anyway, in this last segment, I mean, this has been fascinating. There's so much, about the serpent wisdom and serpent mound, and I hope I really do get a chance to see you, in March. And I'm going to try to get Ross Hamilton on, the show in the beginning of the year.
Please do.
Just to, have him talk about the giants that Joel was talking about, because this is absolutely fascinating. This is information I brought up. But getting back to your book, because like I said, I really, the Book of Positive Light, it really would be a great, not textbook, I can't find the right words, but a reference book. Whereas Joel almost said it, it's almost like an oracle book. Read the journey, because as you read his journey, you can, with all the energies happening nowadays, people are starting to think outside the box. They're starting to think deeper. They're becoming more aware of, the spiritual realms. They're breaking out of so many of the paradigms of labels and things. But this book gives you insights. And like you said, it almost could be like an oracle. It's not something that you may, you had the intention of, but it really does. And I don't say that too much. I think your book's the only one I said that about. That, I would flip through it.
Right.
And I'd get an answer.
It's alive. It's organic.
Yeah. So, I do, people who are searching or seeking for some ideas. I mean, Joel has gone through the journey and he keeps on growing, and he's getting into talk radio, and he's sharing all his wisdom. But if you need something black and white, check out the Book of Positive Light, Lemuria, the Book of Positive Light, because that's what it is. So all in all, if you were to say, what would be your message to people out there?
The message for me, the caveat, that the takeaway would be to, between the 5 to 6 senses, well, really the 5 senses, it only portrays 8 to 9% of total reality. So in order to see what is legitimate and real, or what is happening out there, beyond the fear of things, I would suggest to anyone who is interested, or even seeking for that matter, and is wondering about this global awakening of things. It's not something that is external. It is something that is derived from within. The more that you start to see past the fear of things, the illusion of things, of what we see with the 5 senses, and start to look beyond and into the 91% of what is real, the intuition, our subjectiveness, love, and the many things that we just cannot see, and the breadcrumbs that we find along the way through synchronicity and the many paradoxes in life, look within, and that'll bring you to the centeredness, to the interconnection that we have all together in unity through the heart. And that is what the Lemuria is all about, is that the integrity and the self-rediscovery of self, and it is also the awakening from within that brings us together in interconnection. So we must fall away from the ego of things. And I find myself, as a learning curve to fall away from the ego. And I can often get sucked in many times on over. But when we utilize the wonderful tool of the heart and perceive things in that way through the heart-centered level of consciousness, we can see and perceive things in a different light. more into that 91% of legitimated reality that we can create for ourselves. This new reality of existence that it's coming into our being, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, for sure.
This golden age of things. So I invite everybody to listen within and to journey within, and that will bring you the wisdom that you seek, that you search and seek.
Do you think we're going to actually reach the Lemurian state of mind again?
Oh yes, it's already here. It's all a matter of reaching that threshold to where everyone is awakening. And of course, there's only a select few that have volunteered to be the so-called beacons of light. And the thing is, you can't force this on what is happening. You just be. You are just a template. You're essentially the example for other people to follow. And it is just universal law. You cannot force any particular thing of movement of anything, but you can just be that example. And when you exude that example, change can only occur when you have changed from within. And from the light bringers that are out there, once we realize that change from within, the very surroundings that exist will change alchemically to the very world that was meant to be.
I notice, even from, like I said, the use of the internet radio is to make available to the listening public. I mean, you have the TV media, but they present ideas and as fictional ideas, but they do seem to become ingrained in people. They see it on TV. All right, that's set in stone. No, that's all wrong. I think the purpose of the internet radio is to balance it out and say, okay, people, here's some information. Right. Now you decide what feels right to you. I mean, if the TV told you, well, this white sheet of paper is black, are you going to believe it? Or if somebody else out there, says to you, okay, you have the knowledge within you. Look at this paper. What color is it to you? Which way are you going to go? So I really do see internet radio in its many forms that's developing, and it's really becoming very expansive. And it's not so much entertainment. I've noticed that it's educational.
Right. Exactly. We're just in the stages of the level, the chakra of the throat. And with that being said, there's no wonder why there's a huge rise within the industry of podcasting, why there's a rise in the industry of self-publishing books, or even the rise of the audiobook industry. It's the power of the voice that we're in right now. And with the power of the voice, there's the power of truth, of purity, of legitimacy. And that's the illusion of our times, is we really don't even know what's real out there in the popular media because it's so manipulated. And the only way to determine what is real and what is not through what we see or what we hear, necessarily through, cable and, again, popular media. It's what we sense through the heart. And it's becoming to that very point where no one can really lie to us because we know the truth when we sense it through intuition and the subjectivity of things and through our heart.
I totally agree with you. I always say, think through your heart. People go, how can we do that? And it's so simple. I mean, there's no planned way of saying it. It's just let your heart come up, energy come up through your brain, your mouth. Don't think. Just, let's be the spiritual being that you are. And this, I think, is the message we're all trying to get out to everybody, that you're not this dense form or holographic form or, whatever perception you come from, but you're light. And let that light radiate. And we will get back to the golden age of Lemuria, where things are a lot happier, I think. I hope.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're already there. It's just the matter of opening our eyes and our hearts and allowing that heaven to return back to our earthly plane.
Well, Joe, I really appreciate you coming on. We only touched upon things, but, I hope,
Oh, yeah. Right.
it's the tip of the iceberg again. As I said, that hour goes really, really fast. So for everybody that has, listened to the show from the OM page, look at his biography. He has where he can be found, what shows, radio stations that he has, and listen to him. Get his book. You're also on Facebook. People can reach you. So you're all over the place. One busy young man.
But believe me, people have seen me in many places, but I'm not consciously there. They've seen me in other places, especially Arizona. And it's just that figment of that imprint that we put out there. And yeah, it makes it easier.
Well,
if that is true.
I hope to see you in March.
Yes,
and we can have a long talk.
Yes,
and good luck. Yeah, good luck on your book, Lemuria, and the positive light.
Thank you so much.
Like I say, it really is. It's a great book to use as a reference, for some answers. And the music again.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, so until next week, have a blessed week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.